Are we going? All right. Good morning, people. So I am glad to be back together after the holidays. I had a very restful holiday. Thank you, COVID. Because this is my theory. My theory is I am about as boosted and vaccinated as you can get. I think I've done the whole kitchen sink version of it. Consequently, my COVID experience was basically a backache. Really what my COVID experience was an excuse to lie on the couch for 12 days straight. And that's what I did. I had a wonderful COVID experience / Christmas holiday. So I am very much looking forward to the new year. This is the first year in a long time we have not had some large externalities kind of imposing themselves on us. We don't have a pandemic this year. We don't have to search for a new home. We're not moving this year. So I am hopeful that a lot of our long pending aspirations for the health and well-being of the community, that this is the year that we can enact them. And one of them I just want to put into your mind. I hope this year that we get to unleash the power that is Shelby Everhart. I hope this year that's what we get to do. I don't know how we lucked out and we found Shelby, but Shelby is a treasure. When you see her, give her a big kiss. Because we did find her, however, our children are going to benefit, our teenagers are going to benefit. And one of the things Shelby loves doing is empowering other people, equipping other people to work with kids and teenagers. And she's been limited in her ability to do that because we've been grappling with these externalities that I've talked about. So she's looking forward to building teams. So my job this year, our planning team's job this year, really all of our jobs this year is to find Shelby her people, to find the folks that she can work with that will become the team. She's already got the beginnings of a great team in place, so our hope is to be able to expand that this year. Matt just did the budget for us for the coming year. We tried to build all of our teams with volunteers, but when we have trouble getting consistency in an area where we need consistency, we work with small stipends. And so we've got a few to work with in this year's budget to help develop our children and our teens ministry. So if you know somebody who loves kids, if you know somebody who loves teenagers, part of our community or not part of our community, please let's talk together. So again, welcome. Welcome to New Year, welcome to Common Thread, and especially welcome if you're a newcomer. We're glad you're here. We'd like to welcome you in about as low-key a way as we could figure out in a you decide when, you decide if way. We prepared an email, and if you will go to that link, commonthreadchurch.org, our website, /newcomer, we will send you an email. And after you've read that email, down at the bottom, you'll know some stuff about the community, but there'll also be an invitation to get to meet some real live people. So if you would like to do that, please go to your phone. I also put this slide up because when things get rough, the American tendency is to isolate. But that is not what a healthy community does. What a healthy community does is stand with one another. So if you're having a rough time, if you're online and you're having a rough time, by the way, welcome to YouTube where we're live streaming now. Please let us know. We have to ask because we just don't do that as Americans. Let us know if you're having a rough time. If you use that link, it'll go to Morgan. Morgan will connect you to somebody who would very much like to stand with you as you go through rough times. So, let's do what we do each week. Getting ready for music school, guys. It's almost time to start. Let's start with what we say each week. If you're here, you belong. Let's say it together. If you're here, you belong. That was good. That was good. We are, every one of us, carriers of the inner light. And we are, every one of us, carriers of divine breath. Okay, Joe, come up, take us to a new year of music school.
This is officially unmuted. There we go. All right. We found each other. Yay. All right. So, I thought one more round on Little Drummer Boy would be a perfect way to start. What do you think? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not sure if he's joking. I'm joking. All right, I thought we would start with some things old and some things new. It's a new year. Yes, ma'am.
This one doesn't have a color scheme.
That is true, but lucky for us today, we don't need no stinking colors. So you'll be just fine. We're going to use the letters today. So we're going to start with the song we started with way back in October, I think it was. Sorry. We're still working out the audio. Love, Love, Love. Okay? The song's so nice, they named it thrice. I'm going to pull this way in the hope that I can get rid of that feedback. Now, because it's been a while since we've done it, I thought we should do a quick review. I'm pretty sure most of us are familiar with this song, but just in case we're not, here's how it goes. Love, 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 the message in a word is love. Love your neighbor as your brother. Love, love, love. So that's all of our part. And then it changes to joy and to peace and back to love. Now, I also see some new friends up front. Maybe some folks that we're going to play a little bit of music together, and I'm still working this out myself. Let's do this. My folks down here on the finger symbols, you may uncover your finger symbols. I bet you guys know what to do. You're going to play on 8, okay? I'm going to show you how this works. Can you guys make your finger symbols like a plus sign and tap the edges once? Mastered it. All right, now, I'm going to count to 8, and you're going to tap it once on the number 8, and we're going to clap on the number 8. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's your job. All right, my friends over here on the drums, we're going to play this. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Can we try that? 1, 2, here we go. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. You've got it. Now, xylophones. Pick up your mouse. Now, we've been using colors for a while, but today we're going to not use colors. We're going to use letters. So I want everyone to find the letter E on your xylophone and tap it once. Good. That's E for elephant. No, E for eggplant. I forgot. Then find the D. D for donut. All right. Then back to the E. Perfect. And then up to the B for bagel. All right, so the pattern is eggplant, donut, eggplant, bagel. Eggplant, donut, eggplant. You've already got it. Let's hear you guys do that together once. 1, 2, here we go. Eggplant, donut, eggplant, bagel again. Eggplant, donut, eggplant, bagel. Keep going. 2, 3, 4. Finger symbols ready. Ding. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ready. 1, 2. So close. 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2. Right on 8. 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Last time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Brilliant. Brilliant. I think we're ready. I know these guys are ready. All right. All right, finger symbols, start us off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, xylophone's ready. 5, 6. Here's the E. Eggplant, donut, eggplant, bagel. Ready? Love, 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 love. The message in a word is love. Love your neighbor as your brother. Love, love, love. 7. Love, joy, joy, joy. The message, watch me. The word is joy. Joy that fills to overflowing. Joy, joy, joy. 7. Message that passes understanding. Peace, peace, peace. Back to love and strong. Love, love, love. 7, 8. Message in a word is love. Love your neighbor as your brother. Love, love, love. 7. Love, love, love. 6, 7. Love, watch me. Love. Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Now, if my friends down front here would do me a favor, drums, yes, upside down. Today, we're going to learn something new. And sometimes when you learn something new, you have to put aside what you've already been doing, learn something new, and then we add it back in. So that's what we're going to do now. We have completed the instrumental portion of our singing time. At least that's what I hope is going to happen. So if xylophones, if you could put your mallets down, okay, you can stay there for sure. And we will add instruments to this next song, but we need to go step by step. And today we will be focusing on learning the song. Same thing for finger cymbal. If you would put your finger cymbals on the towel and then cover it, okay, we will get back to instruments on this song, but today we're going to focus on learning how to sing it. The song is called Day by Day, from the musical Godspell. Could I see a show of hands? Who is familiar with the song Day by Day from Godspell? All right, all the old people are. The young people are like, day by day? God, what's a Godspell? So, Day by Day is from the musical Godspell by Stephen Schwartz, okay? The lyrics, originally in Latin, here's some fun facts for you Godspell nerds. Lyrics originally were in Latin by Richard of Chichester. Is that Chichester or Chichester? I'm not sure of the pronunciation. He lived from 1197 to 1253. So, very contemporary. Canonized by Pope Urban IV in 1262. That's the lyricist for Day by Day. Raise your hand if you had Pope Urban on your bingo card for today. Did not know there was a Pope Urban. By 1940, it had been translated into English and included in the Episcopal hymnal. In 1971, Stephen Schwartz took the words of a medieval bishop, added his melody, and created one of the most memorable and recognizable songs ever written, assuming you were around back then. All right, so this song, and some of you who maybe aren't so sure, you may recognize this melody when you hear it, because it has become a pretty well-known staple in the American musical theater songbook. Now, the interesting thing about Day by Day, we have to talk a little bit about something, and this is really music school, even more than what we maybe have been doing. We have to talk about something called meter. Now, meter refers to how the beats are organized. The beats are organized into groups in music, and there are strong beats and there are weak beats. So here we have a meter of 2, 1 strong beat, 1 weak beat. Okay? So let's try, if you would, if you can get to where you can get to your lap. We're gonna internalize some beat here today, because as it turns out, the song Day by Day has 2 different meters, which is pretty unusual for most songs, but it does in fact have 2 meters. So we're going to hopefully learn 2. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing great. We're going to learn how to meter of 2 and meter of 3 today. So the way we're going to do meter of 2, strong beat on your lap, weak beat is a clap. So join me please like this: 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You want to do that, don't you? It just kind of happens naturally. Good, excellent. All right, you are masters of a meter of 2. Let's go to meter of 3. Meter of 3 is 1 strong beat and now 2 weak beats. So you can see when you add up the strong and the weak beats, that is what defines your meter. So we're going to do a meter of 3 like this: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You can see how different it feels compared to a meter of 2. So this is our waltz meter, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Don't speed up on me. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Excellent. All right. So, as it turns out, all meters, whether it's, because you can have a meter of 4, a meter of 5, meter of 6, etc. They migrated. Okay, they traveled. Let's cover those up, guys. Thank you so much. All right. All other meters are simply combinations of 2 and 3. Meter of 4 is 2 meters of 2. Meter of 5 is 2 and 3 put together. So these are kind of the building blocks of every other kind of metric system in music. Now, so that makes singing in different meters pretty interesting. And so, all right, so be my echo on this, please. 1, 2, day by day, ready, sing, day by day, and listen, and day by day, and ready, go, day by day. Let's put those two together, ready, go, day by day, and ready, sing, day by day, listening, oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray, do that with me, here we go. Oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray, listening, to see thee more clearly, go, to see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, go, love thee more dearly, listening, follow thee more nearly, day by day, with me, go, follow thee more nearly, day by day. Good. Let's put that together. It goes like this. You can join in if you feel like you want to, or you can just listen the first time. 1, 2, day by day, day by day. Oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray, to see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, follow thee more nearly, day by day. Join me please, and day by day, day by day. Oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray, to see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, follow thee more nearly, day by day. Very nice, very nicely done. Watching my time. Good. Now, for the, am I correct in thinking I have till about 10:30? Thereabouts? Okay. 10:25, whatever. Okay. Okay. All right. 10:25, then. All right. So let's stay with the meter of 3 today. Then let's sing this together one more time. We'll add meter of 4 next week. All together. 1, 2, day by day, day by day. Oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray, to see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, follow thee more nearly, day by day. One more time. Day by day, day by day. Oh dear Lord, 3 things I pray, to see thee more clearly, love thee more dearly, follow thee more nearly, day by day. All right, we will pick up and we will learn about a meter of 2 next time. Let's go ahead and we will conclude with Ubi Caritas, another song that has been familiar to us over the past few months. And for those of us that this is new to, let me give you a quick little lesson in Ubi Caritas. Ubi Caritas means where there's charity, and the full name is where there's charity and love, God is there. That's what the Latin text means. So you can just listen to the opening melody, or you're welcome to join in. This is just a refresher for all of us. Ubi Caritas, Ubi Caritas, Deus EBS, and it repeats. Ubi Caritas, Ubi Caritas, Deus EBS. Then we get to English, which goes like this. Where there is charity and love, God is there, God is there. Where there is charity and love, God is always there. Then there's a middle section, which you are welcome to join in on or just listen to. And then the Ubi Caritas part comes back. And there's a very little tag at the end which simply goes, God is always there. And that's the whole song. So let's take Ubi Caritas from the top. Let's go ahead and get that channel up. There we go. I think, is the guitars muted? Yep. Thank you, sir. All right, here we go. Thank you so much for singing today.
All right, kids, you can stand up together and turn to someone nearby you, pass the peace blessing one to another, greet one another, say good morning. Lori, Lori asked for this. This is the list of all the people who contributed, and these were just a few that came in by mail. Sorry. And as you're being seated, a few announcements to make. I don't know why. As you're being seated, no, we got to keep working at it. Here, we got to keep working at it because they got to get it. As you're being seated, a few announcements to make. Keep talking.
All right. As you can see from the slide up behind me, before I plunge into the announcements, which is when most of you decide what you're going to have for lunch after the service, let us remind you that the announcements are tied closely to our core curriculum, as it were, here at Common Thread, which is Working the Circle. So we have an annual schedule of events and gatherings and opportunities to learn and to serve, each hopefully representative of the 4 quadrants. So, for example, opportunities to connect in the community. As you can see, What Are You Thinking happens after the Zoom today here in the room. Then we are also having the coffee cart tutorial. A few people I know have signed up, an opportunity to serve. Today, the Common Thread Brew Crew, I'm trying to think which quadrant that fits in. Beer, the beer quadrant. There is a beer quadrant. We're lobbying to have a bourbon quadrant, but we haven't gone there yet. Bunko night is next week. That also belongs in one of the quadrants, a chance to get to know each other. The drop-in Enneagram is next weekend also in terms of learning. And of course, then we are rescheduling our chili cook-off and potluck on the 29th. That is the eating quadrant. We are going to show you a short video. For those of you who don't know, we are constantly getting kicked off of Facebook, so we are moving to live stream on YouTube. Why? What happened? It is. I'll summarize it. The live stream is on YouTube from now on. In all seriousness, the way that we work together in terms of the circle is by knowing what's going on in our church community. So we ask that you check in at least once a week in one of these 3 ways. Read the email that comes out on Thursdays, go to the app, look at the website. If you're doing these 3 things, then you are in the know regarding working the circle. So let us take a deep breath after the music, after the announcements, all the information, and remember why we are not in bed, but instead at church. And let's meditate together. So find a comfortable place in your body. That might mean sitting up straight with your hands on your thighs. It might mean closing your eyes or lowering your gaze. Taking a deep breath in, perhaps holding it for a moment. Releasing. Holding it for a moment again. Taking a breath. Releasing that breath. We are continuing today with the welcoming prayer that Sue introduced us to last week. I let go of my desire for safety and security. I let go of my desire for safety and security. I let go of my desire. I let go. I let go of my desire for esteem and affection. I let go of my desire for esteem and affection. I let go of my desire. I let go. I let go of my desire for power and control. I let go of my desire for power and control. I let go of my desire. I let go. I let go of my desire to change the situation. I let go of my desire to change the situation. I let go of my desire. I let go. I let go of my desire. I let go. Indwelling divine, hearts and minds, may we be more welcoming this year. May we be humble, kind, and courageous together. Amen.
When I first started practicing the welcoming prayer, I didn't like it. Because I don't want to let go of my desire to change things. I don't want to let go of my desire for power and control. And my goodness, anybody with a lick of sense wants to have affirmation and esteem. Everybody wants to have safety and security. And one of the things that helped me, what did you say she's called on the internet? Saint Mary of Brooklyn. When I was watching someone, and she used the term, and then Robin reiterated it. It is, I let go of my compulsive desire. It's quite natural to have these desires, but we take those desires often and turn them into compulsions. So I hope you will this month, as we're practicing the welcoming prayer together. I hope you'll make that part of your practice as well. I let go of my compulsions, my compulsive desire. A little bit of housekeeping before we start the lesson this morning. Those of you online, if you found us, great. We have switched to YouTube. The rest of us, if you would go to our YouTube page, find it and subscribe or like. I think it's subscribe. If you do that, it ends up changing how we can actually advertise our site if we get a certain number of folks, but usually the folks who are here won't subscribe. The added bonus is you get a notification when we go live. The other thing is we're going to resume morning meditation, but I am looking for other facilitators. I will do Tuesdays or Wednesdays and Fridays. We've got some people working on Mondays, but if you would like to help, then we could perhaps add Tuesday, Thursdays. We could perhaps extend it on beyond Easter. The current term runs. So if you're interested in helping facilitate, it's really relatively simple. You open the Zoom, you start the timer, you dismiss us. That's about what is involved. And so talk to me about that. And then finally, if you're good at drawing a straight line with tape and painting around the edges, we got a sign for the monument out in front. And I got all the stuff here. We just need someone who knows how to put that stuff on. If you're interested in that, come talk with me about that as well. All right. Nobody with a lick of sense likes New Year's resolutions. First of all, they don't work. Second of all, they feel bad. Usually they make us feel bad because they don't work. So most of us have made the classic mistake along the way, the classic how change happens mistake, which is to pull out the easy button. Because it feels like change ought to be easy. It's not, but it feels like it is. Feels like it should be. Because the easy mistake that we make is to assume that the change that we want, more of this or less than that, is easy because we've done it before. We actually know how to do it. the thing that we want more of or the thing that we want less of, we've already done it. We already know how to do it. So we assume, it appears, that all we got to do is just do it again and do it right this time and keep doing it for a longer period of time. Now, I've fallen into that trap enough times that I don't do that anymore, not because I'm particularly smart, just because I've had a whole lot of dry runs. So, New Year's resolutions rarely work. If ever, why would I every year come back to this text again and again and do a lesson on change? Always from the same text, Psalm 90, always highlighting verse 12, teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts in wisdom. Well, a little bit about why I do this. By the way, it's a good psalm. You might want to read it together. It's one of those psalms, like many of them do, that personifies God in human-looking form, human-shaped form, and that's part of our tradition. It is. But you've heard me say many times on my own spiritual journey, I have found it less and less helpful to think of God in human-shaped terms, find it kind of constricting, actually. So we've used lots of other metaphors for talking about the divine, non-humans like gravity, water, wind, dirt, inner light, inner voice, those kinds of things. But if you make that shift, then Psalm 90 is actually a very powerful part poem, part prayer, part liturgical service. It's thousands of years old, and here it is, and it still speaks to me in the way I live my life today. So the psalm starts out and says, it is easy to forget, people, that there is a reality that is bigger than you and bigger than me. Because we do get a little consumed in our own worlds, we forget that there is this bigger reality. So the psalmist says, look at the mountains. Look at how long the mountains have been here. They were here a long time before you got here, a long time before I got here, and they're going to be here a long time after you and I are gone. So this reality that we awaken in, it was running a long time before we got here. This reality, it will be running a long time after we're gone. There is a bigness to it. And in the face of that bigness, our lives are kind of puny. Our lives are like patches of grass, the author says. They pop up in the morning because of the wetness of the dew, but by afternoon, when the scorching sun is out, they're gone. If we're strong, the psalm says, we might get 80 years. But look at the mountains. 80 years, that's nothing. A short little story we live, full of labor and toil, filled with happiness and heartache, but poof, it's over in a blink. And then he comes to verse 12 and says, so divine light, so inner wisdom, teach us. Teach us to number our days. Teach us to live our precious few days wisely. That's a really important theme for human beings to hold on to. It is one of the cornerstones of wisdom. It is one of the cornerstones of lives well lived. To hold on to the basic idea that life is short and we ought to do our best to live it well. To hold on to the basic idea that what consumes us does not consume the reality that is around us. Because keeping that in mind gives us a perspective that will go a long way to living well. So today let's talk about that line. Teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts in wisdom. When we finish, we'll do some questions as we do. These will be the questions, give you some time to be thinking about them. We've only got so much energy for making the changes that will help us number our days. So I'm going to suggest a way of thinking about the changes we ought to prioritize, and then I'll suggest a few change projects. So you be thinking between now and then a time that you implemented change. Think about a time you implemented change. What went well, what didn't go well, and what would you now, in hindsight, maybe because you've heard the lesson or maybe because of your own experience, what would you do more of or less of if you were going to mount another change project in the future? All right, so those will be the questions, kind of be thinking about that as we go along. I have a precocious grandson. This grandson thinks thoughts and has insights that are uncommon for a child his age. So the two boys were over Friday evening when I got home. They were in the living room together making plenty of grandson noises. There was lots of it going on. I'd just gotten home, so I was sitting in the kitchen. I was catching up with Denise. And as is not uncommon, crying erupted from the other room. So I called them both in, and I asked the one to fill me in, and I told the other one, I'm going to hear your account of what's going on next, because I was assuming that the one who was crying had been bopped on the head by the one who was not crying. But no, it wasn't that. The not crying one said, gee, Grandpa, I don't know. He just started crying. And the crying one, the precocious one, said, I don't know when I'm going to die. Followed by a fresh eruption of tears. So, some quick adjusting for Grandpa. I guess we're going to be having a chat. So I sent the, I don't know, grandson back into the other room and then did a little bit of probing. What brought about the thought? What's the thing under the thing? And after we did that for a while, in the end, what do you know? This kid is grappling with the same thing that the psalmist was grappling with: the transience of life, the impermanence of our existence. Here is this kid grappling with a, if not the, core dilemma of human existence. We have minds, you and I, that can imagine eternity. But we live in bodies that are dying the day we're born. We've got minds that can imagine eternities, and we live in bodies that all die. So, my mind is scrambling at this point, and I am thinking, how are we going to talk about this with precocious grandson? And while I'm thinking, to warm up, I used words, which is how I always get warmed up. I just start talking. And I start talking about actuarial tables, and I start talking about probabilities. My wife gave me no small amount of grief afterwards for that, but I said, yes, it's true, hon. Everybody dies. I'm going to die. Grandma's going to die. The president's going to die. Everybody's going to die. But odds are, if you look at the numbers, it's not going to happen for a long, long time. And after we did that for a little while, there's some hugging going on and then some sharing of the pain of being in this human existence. And just as I'm about to lose his attention, because his brother, having gone into the other room, had turned on a video of animated cars jumping off cliffs and crashing, which I think may be even more interesting than the existential crisis of being human. But just as I was about to lose him, I realized, this is the thing that needs to be said. I got to make sure I say this. And it's what the psalmist said. So I said, hey, let's do this, you and me. Let's live our time on this earth the best way that we can live it. Let's decide, you and me, that we're going to make this one life that we get as fantastic as we can. And he agreed, and then he went off to live fantastically by watching animated cars jump off cliffs. That's what the psalm is about. Explicitly acknowledging what our brains work so hard to keep out of our conscious minds, that life is short. Life is short, so let's decide together, you and me, to make this one life that we get as fantastic as we can. Now here's the thing about that. You've probably already decided to do that. You've probably already decided to make this one life that you get as fantastic as you can. But here's the thing about our lives. They drift. They do. We set an intention, a good one. We develop a tiny habit that's going to help us, a good one. And then life comes at us, and it comes at us fast. And all of our nice habits that we've developed and all of our intentions that we've developed, the good ones, they just slip away. They do. So, constant adjustment is an essential part of the spiritual life. Constant adjustment is an essential part of the spiritual life. We constantly, you and I, lose the plot line. Consequently, every wisdom tradition has some version of Lent or Ramadan or the New Year when we are invited back to thoughtful, intentional living. Teach us to number our days. One of the reasons we don't like New Year's resolutions, one of the problems with New Year's resolutions is we tend to make them self-improvement tasks. And I'm going to suggest if you've abandoned New Year's resolutions, and those are the New Year's resolutions that you have abandoned, maybe keep them abandoned. There is a time for self-improvement, but to make self-improvement tasks how we use these few times in the calendar year, I think is a little bit of a waste. Because we've already got tasks going on in our lives. And when these moments come that are really kind of important, these return to reflection and intentional living moments, if we use them on just adding another task, we will have missed something very valuable. So we add to ourselves a task, and then to get them implemented, we just add some more task energy to it, and then we drill sergeant ourselves into compliance. And a better approach, perhaps, is to recognize that this rhythm that the spiritual traditions have all offered us of returning again and again to reconsidering, readjusting, and returning to intentional living. A better approach for New Year's and Lent and birthdays in September, all the times when we come back, is to return to the practice of nurturing our own well-being. And to talk about that, I'm going to rehearse for some of you, maybe the first time for others, a story that is one of our long-standing tribal myths in our community. It is the story of the orange tree. So here it is. The first house that Denise and I bought was in Los Angeles, and it was built right after World War II. It was built in 1948, and it was built on land that used to be orange groves, just on the other side of LA. It's called the Valley out there. And consequently, because it had been orange groves, most houses had at least one, sometimes two orange trees. So oranges aplenty for everybody every year, to the place that everybody had one of those automated orange juicers. You know, everybody had one of those because everybody made orange juice because everybody had oranges. But our orange tree, having been there decades, was only about 6 feet tall. And it was really scraggly, and it was really crooked, and it was gnarled, and it was wrinkled, and all those decades that it had been sitting there, it had never grown. We would get 2 oranges on that tree every year. Everybody else got bushels and bushels of oranges. We would get 2 oranges. So after we moved in, we had to renovate the house, and after we'd done that, we started looking at the yard and realized, well, that thing's, if it hasn't grown by now, it's probably not going to grow. But anyway, let's do this. Let's cut back these trees that are blocking the sunlight, and they really were just really big bushes. Let's cut these back. We put some of those, they're called Job's tree spikes. You put them in, they're basically fertilizer. And then I ran the hose out there from the backyard, and I put it on a very, very slow drip, and I left that slow drip there for months. And after 6 months, that tree was as tall as the house, and it was as wide as it was tall. It only took 6 months. Bushels of oranges for the Hammock family. What that tree needed was already inside of it. All we had to do was nurture it. And at the turn of the year, and at Lent, in September, this rhythm of returning to intentional living is an invitation to that. An invitation to nurturing what's already inside of us. We are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine, nurturing that which is already in us. We've already got everything inside of us that we need to flourish. We've already got everything inside of us that we need to thrive. What will water our souls? What will feed us? What will rest us? So that's how I have come after these years to these moments of returning. Teach us to number our days has become for me, what do I need? What essential nutrient am I lacking? It's less of what do I need to improve, more what do I need to feed? So today I'm going to make 3 practical suggestions that you might consider ways that we might feed our souls. I started with a list of 7. I might do the other 4 some other time. I'm not sure. But here's the thing about these 3. These are not self-improvement to-dos. Chances are they won't even be the nurture the soul that you need. I'm going to choose one from the communal quadrant, one from the contemplative quadrant, and one from the learning quadrant. But these are more suggestions to stimulate us to be watchful for. What should I be doing to nurture my soul? It's mostly some suggestions to get us to be asking ourselves the questions, watching for something inside of us that rises up and points and says, that's for you. Pay attention to that. Maybe one of these will be helpful for you, but if not, hopefully you will discern one. Let's start with this one. What we could do to nurture our souls is carefully curate our scrolling. We could not let someone else curate our scrolling for us. I ran across a word recently. I loved it. The word is doom scrolling. And I bet you have never heard the word, and I bet you know exactly what it means. When somebody else curates what we scroll, their vested interest is in us feeling doom, because that will capture our attention. But to nurture our souls, we could curate what we read. We could arrange our phones, arrange our tablets to scroll articles on compassion instead of Vladimir Putin. We could do that. We could see articles on psychological and emotional health, on understanding how human development works, instead of some petty political street fight. There is so much content available now, and it is so easy to aggregate that content on our devices, we can easily curate what we read. After, I think, a little bit more than a year, I finally have my treadmill desk back. I borrowed one of the kids' rooms downstairs, and I think there's a room going to open up back here eventually, but I've actually got a place to go with a door on it, and I can walk on my treadmill. I had to take it down when we were at Temple and losing square footage. And I remembered as I was setting it up again, what I was thinking when I set it up the first time. I had read an article that said sitting is the new smoking, and I realized that I was a 2-pack-a-day sitter. So I made a plan, and my plan was to make it difficult to work sitting and make it easy to work walking on the treadmill at the desk. So I got an ergonomic keyboard for the desk, I got a heads-up display, I got dual monitors, I made it super easy to work on the treadmill, and I made it difficult to work sitting down working on a laptop. And sure enough, I walk now. I walk because it's easier, I have access to better tools when I'm walking, and I hopefully will live longer because I do that. Well, that approach of making something easier and something harder will inform how we do any of the things that we decide to implement. In this instance, curating our scrolling. We could add this app to make it right there on front easier to access, and we could remove that app or put it 4 layers down. We could make it easier to access the content that we curate, and we could make it more difficult to access the content that somebody else curates for us. We could curate our scrolling. Teach us to number our days that we may apply hearts of wisdom. We could also create more silent spaces. Theologian philosopher Kierkegaard had a famous quote, "Create silence because God's voice can't be heard in the noise." Thomas Keating, who is a meditation teacher and centering prayer teacher, said, "God's primary language is silence, and everything else is a poor translation." We've got a much better chance of discerning the inner voice that we all carry, because we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine. We've got a much better chance hearing that interior voice when we have more silent spaces in our lives. I listened to this book over the holiday, Golden, The Power of Silence in a World of Noise. It's a good book. It was a good reminder for me. Silence, the book said, is an external reality. Here's a whole bunch of science that will encourage us to take the earbuds out, a whole bunch of science to remind us to turn the screen off, let our minds roam, let our minds relax, space to process our experiences. Silence is also, the book says, an internal reality. It tells us, here's the wisdom from the spiritual traditions. It encourages us to interior quiet, ways and tools to help us quiet down the noise of our own interior monologues. It's a good book. You might want to consider it. But here's what we could do. We could find here, now, small, doable ways to create more spaces where we experience silence. If you're an early bird, we could intentionally start the morning in quiet, make our coffee in silence. We could go through our morning routine without the noise. If you're a night owl, you could do the same thing. Bring the intentionality to the closing of the day to bring silence as part of that. Bring intention to not putting on the device, to doing the tasks in silence, to not turning on the podcast when you're walking or driving. Make the day something that is welcomed quietly, something that is ushered out quietly. I love sitting by the fire in our house. One of the best purchases we ever made was a fireplace you can turn on with a switch and just sit there in the quiet by the fire. We could make silence a regularly recurring part of our days. We could tie it to an event that we already do on a regular basis. Anytime we don't eat a meal with someone, we could eat that meal in silence. And we could not watch during the meal. We could not scroll during the meal. We could not listen during the meal and simply have silence. We could park for a few moments on our way to wherever we go on a regular basis and just spend 3 minutes experiencing a small dose of nature and use those moments to breathe, to practice not doing, to practice not consuming content. We could walk without the headphones. We could drive without the podcast. We could create more silent spaces. Teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts in wisdom. We could schedule an encouraging contact. I just know people are rebelling at the idea of scheduling encouragement already. I did. I noticed in my late 20s that I did not encourage other people very much. Maybe it was because I heard a sermon, or maybe it was something I read, but I noticed. And I noticed it enough that it got past my leave me the way I am filter. I actually wanted to change. But back in those dark ages, I used a planner called a day timer. That's back with day by day, the same era as Godspell. So I put in a scheduled task every Monday, encourage somebody. And I could not tick that off. By the way, I saw Michelle back there. One of the things Michelle said a long time ago, which I just laughed at because it is me. My drug of choice, she said, is closure. I love ticking something off the box, but I could not tick it off the box until I had encouraged someone. So once a week, on my task list, one encouraging contact with somebody, which felt very weird. It felt, like I said a moment ago, it felt inauthentic, because it seemed to me that encouraging is a human thing, it's a relational thing, and I didn't do this thing, but if I ever was to do it, it should be spontaneous. I didn't do this thing, but if I ever did this thing, it should be, in order to be authentic, just happen naturally. Yeah. Well, I didn't do that. So I scheduled it, and I scheduled it every Monday. And here's what I discovered. That Monday task insisted of me once a week that I think about encouraging. First, I had to think about who. Who could I encourage? Who are the people that I spend my days with? Who are the people that I'm around? Who do I see on a regular basis? At the time, I worked the early morning shift. I went in at 5 in the morning so I could get off in time to go to college classes. I worked the early morning shift at a grocery store. And I was around the produce clerk, and I was around the dairy clerk, and I was around the non-foods clerk. And once a week, I insisted of my brain ask this question: who is in my world? Who am I around? Then I had to ask myself, and what is an encouraging thing? What would be encouraging? And how would I do it without being phony? Just trying to fill my list, trying to check off my list. How would I do this in a way that would actually be genuine? So once a week, this damn to-do item kept channeling my brain to think thoughts that my brain wasn't used to thinking. And we all know that brains think thoughts we've thought before and don't like to think thoughts we haven't thought before. So how am I going to do this thing, and how am I going to be genuine at doing this thing? Once a week, I did it. Once a week, I got that Pavlovian reward. I got to tick it off my list, a rush of dopamine. That might not give you a rush of dopamine. That gives me a rush. I probably did that 3 months before I noticed something was happening to me. By insisting of my brain that I think thoughts that I'd not been thinking, say words that I had not been saying, I learned how to be encouraging. In hindsight, I realized what was going on. I have started to remap the neurons in my brain. I did that. It was a project in remapping. The encouraging that I was doing that had felt strange, that had felt inauthentic, started to become natural. And I began to see things that merited encouragement. Now, I assumed those things had always been there. I just hadn't been seeing them. And encouraging words started to come to my mind and come out of my mouth, all quite naturally. I didn't even realize what was happening. I didn't even realize what I was doing. But encouraging others became part of the normal pattern of my days. And it started, it's a little thing, scheduling it every Monday. Every Monday, I'm going to do that one time. And it turns out, I was surprised to find out, that encouraging others also nurtures our own souls. Who knew? Because we create this very human context, tapping it into it, of sharing our lives together, being part of the human community. It actually encourages us as well. Yet another way, teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts in wisdom. Now here's what I hope you hear in these three things, because again, I don't know that these would be the three things for you. But what I hope you hear is sun on leaves, fertilizer in roots, a trickle of water in the soil. We have what we need inside of us to thrive and to flourish. We just need to water it, nurture it, rest it. And maybe we can do that by curating our reading. Maybe we can do that by creating silent spaces. Maybe we can do that by scheduling encouraging words. But if we don't do those, what will we do? What will be the thing that we do that begins to nurture us? I hope you'll all also notice about these three things that they're small things. Small enough that you could easily make the mistake of thinking that small is easy. But change, even small change, is not easy. Our brains get habituated to doom scrolling. And so to not doom scroll will be difficult. Our brains get habituated to not silent spaces. And so creating silent spaces will be difficult. Our brains get habituated to not encouraging words. And so consequently, encouraging words will be difficult to sustain. So I did a lesson back in 2021, how to change your mind. It was 2 Sundays. You may want to go back and have a listen. You won't be surprised. One of the things that we do, here now, small, doable. One of the best ways to change our minds is to start with here now, small, doable. That's why we use that phrase all the time. If one of these things was valuable to you, probably not a good idea to try and do 3. Probably not a good idea to do any one of these nurturing projects because the preacher says to do it. Probably best to do it to implement change in our lives in response to an interior prompt. That That one's for me. That is what my soul needs. That is for now. But once we do sense the interior nudge, our best strategy, here now, small, doable. Start with something very small. It takes planning to implement even one small thing. When will I do it? How will I do it? How will I remember to do it? How will I remind myself when I forget to do it? What will be my fallback plan when I don't do it? Who are the friends that I will invite to help me participate in the doing of this thing? Also, a good book, if you haven't read it, we were talking about this a lot a year or two ago, Tiny Habits. By the way, we do not have a book club yet scheduled for the spring. If you're interested in this book and you would like to read about how to make change in lives, might be a good time this spring to lead a book club. Teach us to number our days. Come back to intentional living. Come back to discern and find and implement practices that nurture our souls and awaken us to the deep reality that is already in us. Build a rhythm of renewal into our days. Make it sustainable. Make it unharsh. Make it doable. Indwelling divine, may we be people of renewal, people of wisdom. May that be. Amen. Now I'm sitting here looking at you all while I'm talking, and I'm looking at my son and daughter over there, and I'm realizing they've got the little babies at this stage, and I'm remembering when we were there, and if I was hearing what I was saying now when I was living where they are living, I would think, well, I would say a bad word. That's what I would do. But remember, small, doable. Our lives are stretched. We make it here, now, small, doable. The reason that book's called Tiny Habits is because the biggest mistake we make is to make our projects for change too big. We've got to make them small, so we start small. Well, if you would, please prepare your offerings. We all give online now. The donate button is at the top of our website, commonthreadchurch.org. If you're here in Raleigh or if you're joining us remotely, we invite you to take an ownership stake in the community. Right now, the monies that we are working on together are going to help us occupy our new space. We've gotten a few quotes. Some of the things that were that quoted for us before are turning out to be less than that. Unfortunately, those were the inexpensive things, so as a percentage, we didn't get back that much money. Some of the more expensive things came back. The quote was actually a little bit more expensive. So also this year, you heard me say earlier, our monies are going to focus on developing our children and our teen ministries. So remember what we've been saying all along, that when we all take a stake and we do this together, we don't have to dun anybody for money. We don't have to push hard for money. We just, if everybody does a part, some of us more, some of us less, we've always been able to take care of all of our financial needs. And remember that when we invest in community, there's a great return on that investment. We give our time and our energy and our love and our dollars. The community takes those resources, amplifies them, and gives them back to us in the form of an environment in which we thrive and flourish. So we all give on our website now. Let's see here. In a minute, we're going to dismiss the folks on the live stream, and those of you, we hope you'll join us on Zoom. The link is on the front page of our website, and the password is 1417. So 1417. You can go there now. You can Zoom. Someone will be there. You can discuss the same questions we're going to be discussing here. Let's dismiss the folks online. If you would, please put your hand on your heart, and let's remember as they go that we are, every one of us, carriers of the indwelling divine. Every one of us has deeply embedded within us love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness. Those things are in us because we are carriers of the indwelling divine. And if you would extend your other hand to our city, let's look for opportunities to share what's already in us with the people that we live and work and go to school with, looking for opportunities to repair and heal our worlds. Amen. God bless you all. You all are dismissed. We are not dismissed.